Welcome back to Live Inspired. Today we're going to be jumping into the topic of birth support. And what I mean by that is how you plan to prepare for your birth through education, maybe some childbirth preparation classes, and who you're going to have in the room at your delivery. That could mean your partner, could be your mom, your sister, your aunt, your friend. Maybe you're considering hiring a doula or a birth coach, but you're really confused about the options. This is the right episode for you. I'm going to be sharing all of this from the context of my own personal experience, which if we're just meeting, hey, I'm Liv. I'm a board certified labor and delivery nurse, and I've been an RN for 14 years at the time of recording this video, which is 2025. And I've spent 12 of those years in the labor and delivery space. So I have a deep clinical knowledge of birth, as I've been fortunate to attend probably over 1,000 at this point. High-risk pregnancies, postpartum complications. I've been a part of all of those stories. So what I want to talk to you about today is, number one, why birth preparation matters. And then we'll get into comparing a registered nurse birth coach like myself versus a traditional doula. So why does it even matter to prepare for your birth? Well, birth is unpredictable, and being prepared gives you an anchor. Education gives you a sense of agency. It helps you and your partner advocate for yourself and for your baby so that you can achieve your desired outcome. It's not as simple as just creating a birth plan, bringing that to the hospital, and then just expecting everything to follow according to the plan that you wrote down. Life doesn't work that way, and birth most definitely doesn't. I also strongly believe that informed families make confident decisions. So even if things aren't going according to your desired outcome, knowing in advance what the interventions are, what is really being offered to you, and why, really empowers you to make a choice that aligns with your values. Preparation reduces fear and it increases satisfaction. It doesn't guarantee a perfect, unmedicated vaginal delivery, but it helps you feel seen and heard and respected. And I think the reality is, for most people, regardless of how their child is born, you want to be left with a feeling that I felt understood and I felt really clear on the decisions that I made as they were being offered to me. I think some birth trauma really gets rooted in that deep feeling of loss of control, which is terrifying and it's very real. And it's something that a lot of people in the hospital setting experience, because you're really giving your autonomy up to a group of strangers who luckily have dedicated their entire lives to learning medicine. And even still, it's an incredibly vulnerable place to be in. And so birth shouldn't feel like something that is done to you. It should be something that you're actively a part of. And whether it's your first baby or your fifth, every single person, compassionate, clear, evidence-based education. And waiting until you're in the hospital ready to give birth doesn't allow you, your nursing team, your providers, the adequate time and space to necessarily give you that. And that's just a reality of it. So what is a registered nurse birth coach? Well, I don't think that birth coach is super mainstream or commonly used, so I'm sure that feels very confusing for many people. It's a term that I'm choosing to use to identify my own offerings, which is really to provide education, emotional support, strategy, and build the bridge between your care team, your physicians, your midwives, and your desired outcome. I have a deep knowledge of hospital protocols, evidence-based care, interventions, hospital systems and just how to navigate all of those complexities, because it can often be really nuanced and very overwhelming for people. I do not replace your provider. I help you understand your options, ask better questions, and feel more in control. A lot of times people have a vision of how they want their birth to unfold, or maybe how they want their pregnancy to unfold. And that can be based on a previous experience. It could be based on an experience of somebody close to you, like a friend or a sister. Honestly, what I see a lot is it's based on the experience of strangers on the internet. Maybe somebody on TikTok told their birth story and you thought, that is exactly what I want for my own. It's great to be inspired, but you really have to be careful about who and where you're getting this information from, because unfortunately what happens is you have these big, grand, beautiful ideas about what your birth is going to look like, but without the education and preparation and deep understanding of what these interventions are, why they're being offered, and when it is or is not appropriate for you, you often get caught up in this system. And writing things down in a birth plan and presenting it to your doctor when you show up to the hospital, it's really not going to do too much. It's really important to communicate your preferences, and I appreciate when people have it physically printed. This is what is most important to me. But a lot of times, without a deep understanding of the process, as things start to unfold and interventions are being offered to you, it can be hard to decipher, is this the best thing for me? Is this the best thing for my baby? Why is this being offered? What are the risks, benefits, and alternatives? Without really knowing how to have those conversations with your team, things can start to feel out of your control very, very quickly. And it's not to say that your doctor or your nurse is not going to explain what's happening in the moment, because they should, and we very often do. But sometimes, depending on the circumstance, things are moving really quickly, and it can become a really critical situation where we don't have 20 minutes to explain to you exactly what's happening. And we need to make a decision now and quickly, especially in the event that your baby's in distress. So you can understand how that can become extremely stressful if you don't have a full understanding of what is being offered to you, why, and what does that look like, how does it feel, etc., etc. So what makes my approach unique as a registered nurse birth coach? Well, it's bridging the science and the heart, right? So I'm here to empower you, not scare or pressure you into a perfect birth, but I know what it's like behind the curtain in the hospital system, and I can help you feel prepared and calm no matter what kind of birth you choose, no matter what the circumstances are, not just during your birth, but also during your pregnancy. A birth coach like myself can offer a lot of support throughout your pregnancy, not just towards the end when you're getting ready for the delivery itself, but I can offer customized support based on where you're at. Maybe this is not your first baby, but you had a really scary experience with your first delivery and you just want to feel empowered and you want to feel armed with knowledge this time going in, but you don't exactly know what questions to ask your doctor. So I can work with you as each of your appointments are unfolding and teach you how to have these conversations and what questions to bring to your care team. And if something is offered and you're having a hard time making that decision, I would never make that decision for you, whether it be choosing an induction or choosing a C-section versus a vaginal delivery. But I can help you really root in and feel for yourself what choice is going to make you feel the most empowered, and ultimately what is going to meet your biggest goal, healthy mom, healthy baby, but beyond that, empowered mom. What's the difference between a birth coach and a doula? Because for the record, I know several registered nurses who are also trained doulas as well. I love working with doulas at the bedside. A doula is a birth support person who has a lot of knowledge in physical and emotional support during labor. Doulas are certified. There's a couple different agencies that certify doulas through training. Most often, I would say their background is non-clinical. It's a lot more of a holistic. They provide strong emotional and physical support, great for in-person labor presence, a lot of nurturing, hands-on, constant bedside support throughout your delivery. Doulas are an amazing asset, so much so that some hospitals are now starting to offer free doula services. And some insurance companies are actually paying for doula services, which is awesome. I think one of the things that comes up if you utilize a free hospital doula is that you're often just meeting this person for the very first time while you're in the thick of your labor, entering your birthing space. So it's difficult to garner a relationship between them in that vulnerable moment versus hiring a doula in advance. Typically you'll have at least a couple sessions with them so you get to know them, they understand your goals and how to support you. But oftentimes they work in networks and it might not be the same doula that you were preparing with that's going to attend your birth because maybe they're on vacation or they're at another birth and so they send someone else in their place. And those are really important questions to ask if you are considering a doula, is how they schedule their time and how many of their births do they get to attend for their clients. I have also found that the birthing background of doulas is incredibly varied, meaning I have met and worked with doulas who were absolutely incredible. They have been in the birthing space for maybe 20 years. They are very confident, very grounded, very calm. They have a pretty good feeling of hospital restrictions and policies and medical language and are really great advocates for their patients. And I've also worked with doulas that just recently got trained. They've been to a certain number of births and they've had a few of their own clients, but they're still learning and navigating the birthing space. And they have a deep knowledge of how to provide physical and emotional support, but maybe don't have the confidence yet of how to navigate that in the hospital setting. I think it's important when you are interviewing a doula to really get a good feel for their background. Whether you're hiring a birth coach or a doula, the end of the day, neither of those support systems replace your medical care with your provider. Whoever you choose to work with should have a healthy respect for the opinion of your provider and what they are offering, as well as hospital policy, because at the end of the day, the person who is most liable for your care is going to be your provider. They're the most responsible for your outcome. So what am I trying to say actually is that I've been in a lot of births where maybe the person desires a low intervention, unmedicated vaginal birth, and they have their birth plan, which by the way, I think all of that is wonderful. Although if you've watched my other episodes, you know that I think you should stop calling it a birth plan and start calling it a birth goal. But regardless, they have their doula and their provider might come in and say, your water's been broken for 24 hours, your risk of infection increases to XYZ. I think at this point, we should consider starting some Pitocin or oxytocin through your IV to increase the strength of your contractions. Once that provider leaves the room, then a doula might say, no, you don't need to do that. because XYZ. Well, while the doula's opinion may be correct and may be warranted depending on the situation, at the end of the day, the only person that can make that medical decision is you. And I think where it gets really tricky is that if you're working with somebody who's constantly pinning you against your care team, that's a big red flag. So I would say, in addition to getting a good feel of your doula or your birth coach's experience, a major red flag for me is somebody who is continuously pitting you against your provider. So somebody who's continuously saying, oh, I don't think you need that. I would refuse that. I would decline that. If that keeps coming up in conversations with your doula or your birth coach, that's often a red flag to me. You want to look for collaboration over competition. There is absolutely a space for doulas, for coaches, for partners, for nurses and OBs. It should be a collaboration. And regardless of who you have in the room, maybe it's your sister. If it's constantly creating this animosity between you and your care team, it's not going to lead to your desired outcome. At the end of the day, every family is different. Some people want a holistic, spiritual, physical, emotional, hands-on support throughout their labor, and a doula is a great option for that. Others are craving somebody who can explain policies and procedures and interventions and fetal monitoring strips and be a strong advocate for them in the medical space. Some people want both. I would leave you with this thought. You hire a wedding planner to make sure that your event goes off smoothly. You hire a personal trainer when you have major fitness goals and you don't feel confident in the gym, or you need accountability. Why would you not invest the time and money into hiring somebody that can help you prepare for one of the most vulnerable and important days of your life, one of the most foundational and important days of your child's life? Education and preparation are essential. You want to lead with confidence and not fear. And at the end of the day, support is not a luxury, it's a game changer. Thanks for listening.